All right, so you've seen the tutorial videos and you've gone through the sample code, but there's still the documentation. And so I wanted to just run through a couple parts of the docs that come with the Jumper pathfinding library and point out a couple things that you might want to look at on your own time. Some stuff that could be really cool, and for depending on the type of game that you are building, it might be perfect for that. So I would advise you to take a few minutes at least, take a little bit and just look through all of the docs just to kind of scan everything so you know what's there, so that you know what type of capabilities are available that I haven't shown you in the demo code. So a couple things that I just want to point out real quick here. Let's jump into the grid. Okay, so in the grid, there are a couple things to look at that I thought would be really, really handy for just about anything you're doing. And one of them is this here, is walkable at X, Y, walkable, and clearance. So it'll check if the node at X and Y is walkable. It checks to see if it exists on the collision map and if it's walkable. And there's this clearance here, which we never got into, and we're going to come back to that in a few minutes, because this is something that, depending on your map, could be really, really handy. So when we get to it, you'll know, oh yeah, that could be used at is walkable at also. So is walkable at with an X and a Y for the grid. It'll tell you whether it's walkable or not. That could be handy for checking just about anything. And there was another one I saw here. There's get height and get width and get nodes, which we do use that one. Get neighbors, that's cool. Returns the neighbors around a specific node. But the other one I thought might be really handy is somewhere in here, get node at. Okay, so it returns the node at location X and Y. So if you're wanting to check whether something is in a certain node or not, you pass the X and the Y, it'll return a node, and then you can do all of the node type things. What can you do with a node? Well, you can check here at core.node. And here's all the things you can do besides creating a new one. You can get the X, you can get the Y, you can get the position, you can get the clearance. Ooh, there's that clearance thing again. You can remove the clearance and reset it. So there's just a few things you can do with the nodes. But let's go over to, let's see, where's Pathfinder? There we go. Pathfinder. So the docs on Pathfinder, these are all the different things that you can do with it here, and the different search algorithms that we had talked about. These lead to by Wikipedia and some other places that talk about these search algorithms. So if you're really into that kind of geeky math stuff, go for it. The modes, which we talked about a little bit, orthogonal are 4 directions, basically north, south, east, and west. And with diagonal, you get all of those, plus you get the diagonal versions of those. So you get 8-way movement is possible with diagonal. So that's something to keep in mind also. And let's see, we are going to jump down to annotate grid. Now this has to do with that clearance thing. And what is the clearance? Now there's a link here in the documentation, which is really cool, because I'm looking through this and it's like, what is this? And I click through and I get to this. It's a geeky math kind of thing site, and it's really cool. It is, in fact, if you scroll back up here to the top, he talks about real-time strategy games having a lot of different type of units, and some are large and some are small. And depending on your terrain, maybe the infantry can go this way, but the tanks are too big to make it through that mountain pass, so they're going to have to go around. And that's where clearance comes in, which is really cool. So it talks in here about how to find the clearance, and you can do that with Jumper. And I did not realize that. I don't have a good map to show that, but what I can do is. Clearance is set right now in path or get path. I said in the original video, I said, and a variable we don't care about. Okay, well we don't, because we're not doing anything with clearance. But clearance is a number. It should be actually a number. So if we have a clearance of 1, that means basically a pathway 1 tile wide, 1 square wide, and so we can actually see whether a path is available that is big enough for us. Now, unfortunately, in this thing that I have here, this sample, if I do this and do this, Okay, it says it's not found. Why is that? Because we can't use clearance unless we first annotate the grid. Okay, so to annotate the grid, fortunately there's a call for that. We're going to put that right here. So we've created the pather variable, set the mode, and now we're annotating the grid. And now if we run this, and we do this, and we do this, we get the path just like normal. But let's say that we need a path that is too wide because we're moving something really big there. And so we put 2 in there for the clearance, and now we do the same thing. We do not get a pathway because it can't be found. Now, I don't have an example of something with 2 things wide, but you can play around with that. That's what clearance is for. So if you're not messing with clearance, if you don't care about that, you can leave it set at 0. And then you don't have to annotate the grid, and you're good to go. Okay, something else that is really cool, let me go back here, is tunneling. Okay, and I don't use tunneling in any of my things right now, but I know that I'm probably going to be using it in some of my games. Let me find tunneling here. Okay, set tunneling. It defines the ability for the Pathfinder to tunnel through walls when heading diagonally. Okay, it doesn't work with jump point search, so you can't use the JPS algorithm. But over here, we are using A* right now anyway. So to do that, we're going to set tunneling to true right here. And we're going to change our map so that we have a diagonal place where we can go through. Let me show you what I mean by that. Now, here is... I put this block in the way, but see there's a diagonal passage here and a diagonal passage here. Now in a lot of cases you're not going to want that to happen, so you would not turn tunneling on, but depending on your game you might want that. So if I click here and I click here, it's not going to work. It's actually going to go around that. Even though we have tunneling set on, that's because you need to have the mode set to diagonal. Right now it's orthogonal, so it can only go 90 degrees, so there's no way it can cut through here. But if we change this, change that, we have tunneling set to true. Now we can do the exact same thing. Start here, end here, boom, look at that. Goes right through there. That's really cool. So tunneling is the kind of thing that you might want depending on your map, depending on how you want things to be able to move. So there is an option for you, and you'd never know that if you didn't read the documentation or watch this video. But that's one of the things that is really cool about Jumper. There's a lot there under the hood. And you can use the easy stuff, and then you can dig a little deeper and find the stuff like the clearance and annotating the grid and doing the tunneling or not. So anyway, take a look at the docs. There's a lot of good stuff in there, and it will help you make the most out of the Jumper library.